Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your knowledge with us. Moving ahead, we will now proceed towards the second panel discussion of the day, which would involve Mr. Hassan Al-Lawati, Ms. Flavia Marzano, David Hurley, and Mr. Ali Al-Shidhani as the moderator. I would kindly request you all to come up on stage.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. You know, the only thing stopping you from getting your lunch is this panel discussion. So let's make it short and sweet. First, I would like to thank Hassan, Flavia, and welcome David. The presentations were inspiring. Before we open the floor for the audience to ask questions, let's start with Hassan. And maybe I will pick up on what Flavia was saying. 10 years or maybe less in Oman's since 2010, 5 years. How do you assess the previous 5 years? What have we achieved in terms of Foss government, integration between Foss and government and so on?
Well, I mean, like we focused more on the awareness and capacity building side. So we see a good difference now comparing from the beginning of 2010 to now. Even if I compare the last version of the conference in 2013 till now, I can see many people, they are now aware about what is Foss. And I can see many people now, they are capable to work on Foss and do some applications, especially when we have worked out with some competitions. We got very good people working on amazing things. The only issue is like now from the industry side. Okay, when we try to connect these people to the industry, the main challenge that we face here is like there is hesitance.
Yes.
No confidence. And like when we get, I mean, like as we see in Oman, the government is the key driver for the industry, and they are the key buyers of the products and services. They hesitant to go for both applications. I mean, like emotionally, they are you know, like supporting it. But then, like when it comes to the practicality and implementation, they have a hesitant and they have a less confidence. And when you ask them why, I mean, like what stops you to do that? They say it could be support, it could be some resources that we don't see many resources available in the market. So we keep insisting to have more awareness, more capacity building in order to, I mean, like aiming to see those organizations welcoming in future, I mean like a new future I would say, for the implementation to happen. But still we see at this stage that hesitance is there, less confidence is there. So that's our main challenge.
Hassan, let me ask you this question, frankly. Do you think the decline in oil prices will help the Foss cause?
Well, I mean, in some nations, yeah, but I would say in the Gulf region, not really. Because
It's not,
I don't think the money, the budget is the matter.
So the cost is not really...
Cost is not really the key driver to just make it happen or not, but mainly the belief of people in innovation, that could be the key driver.
Flavia, I don't know if you have experienced similar resistance. Yeah? What have you, can you share your experience? What have you done to overcome them?
Unfortunately, I have it because, you know, we are a lot, we are very strong, we are a great community, but people against us are stronger because they have money. And they are fighting hardly for this point of view because, okay, they're doing what it is to be done. I mean, it's their job, so they're working for the companies. It's okay. But even, at least in Italy, it's a question of lack of skill, of digital skills in our politicians. They do not understand. Every time I have the possibility to talk to them, and just to say, this is proprietary software, this is open source software. This is risk, this is opportunities, and their opportunities. And then they see immediately that there are so many opportunities in having free software in public administration, they say, why don't we adopt it? I say, after you, we will help you if you want.
So do I get it? It's more a political fight than a technical fight? Or it's...
For the technical point of view, I don't see anything against. I mean, there is no good reason to adopting. It's just a question of license. The software can be good or bad. Good or bad. It's not a question of license. It is good, I get it. It's bad, I don't get it. But in public administration, it's a question of license. So the license should be open because of what I said. Lucky, backdoors, reusability, public money, civic engagement, open data, and whatever. So maybe the strongest thing to do is to help politicians to better understand why it is their problem. It's not technical.
It's not technical.
No, not for me. Not in my opinion.
Dave, I don't know if you want to add to the discussion.
I think what it comes down to is an education, right? It becomes the opportunity to demonstrate the power of open source software and that it is a strong competitor and perhaps even a better option than some proprietary software.
So maybe we'll take more questions from the audience. There's one there. Yeah? Yes?
Yes, I have a question as well as a comment, if you don't mind. It's over here.
Okay.
Here?
There,
Okay.
middle.
Yes, great. My name is Wasal. I will start with the comment. I just would like to emphasize the point that we do not have a technical problem. Open source communities, wherever they exist, they will never run out of technical skills. It is a management and a political issue. And I really strongly believe on this. Back to Mr. Hassan's comment about the resistance, probably is that they don't fear the failure. Probably if you target industries, you will probably overcome your challenges because usually industries feel safer when they work together because they share the risk. Looking at your speech and your slides, it seems that you were targeting individuals and probably organizations in individual manner. Maybe if you gather your efforts towards industries, you will overcome some of your challenges. The main problem is not the license fees. The main problem is the failure. If we share our failures, it's much safer. And open source, what is good about open source is that we are unbundling the development with the software support. So usually when you buy a software, it's always the development with the support, it's one batch, one package, you take them together. You cannot separate them. What's good about open source communities is that you are unbundling them. If you emphasize these points to the organizations that you are communicating with, make it clear, market your idea, it's just a suggestion, it's an advice, it's humble advice. Market your ideas towards this direction rather than marketing it towards that you won't pay licensing fees. That's my comment. Sorry for the long comment.
Thank you very much.
And my question is, could you please briefly describe the objectives of creating the labs? So what are the activities that are run by the labs? And do you have certain projects that the users should achieve?
I think this is for Hassan, right?
Yes, for Hassan, please.
Yeah. First of all, thanks for your comment. In fact, we are trying both the ways, the way that I mentioned and the way you suggested. But it seems like what we felt so far is the hesitance from the change itself. You know, some cultures, they don't accept change, like immediately, and they need some time. With regards to your second question, yeah, we're establishing the labs mainly for, like creating the awareness. There are different level of training courses that we provide. So the aim is like to create awareness, and more into that is the capacity building. We are trying to build people and resources to know about Foss technically and work on it, so we are trying to prepare them for the future. We also tried with the colleges themselves some of the colleges accepted to start considering it as part of their curriculum. So mainly this is the main concern just to prepare those resources to be ready in the market. So the complaint that we are hearing from the other side when it comes to the industry that there are not enough people to support and technical support matters. So here are there, we are preparing them. So we are just trying to go parallelly, preparing these people and again, approaching the government sector to, adapt the Foss technology. So mainly this is the main objective out of that.
But I want to follow up on what she said. I think I agree with her. Most of the initiatives that I've seen, like the Summer of Code and the labs, they are geared towards individuals, maybe students and so on. I understand that approaching the government is maybe more difficult, or industry is more difficult, but have you tried projects like that, project-based initiatives?
Yeah, good that you have raised this topic. The Summer of Code, the latest version that we had, before we started, we brought some government organizations on table and we asked, what is really you're looking for? What are the solutions you're looking for? Are there any problems? For example, is there anything that you're looking for as software and we can make it for you for free? So they presented some of the ideas and some of the projects. Then we brought those students and we invited them and we shortlisted those needs and they worked on projects based on that shortlisted projects. And based on that, we just made up the projects happening and they were already made. The objective of that competition was not just to run it and just have that competition and award some people, but also the follow-up with the organizations after that. And we already started that immediately. Once we came to that stage, then we also faced that there is a hesitant. Okay, fine, you guys have mentioned those problems happening. And when these software is being implemented, there were a focal point from your particular, entities who were following up with them. And they will keep watching it, how it's happening, and they were just adding the comments and so on. So it's made the application itself as more like a combination of the joint efforts. But again, still, once the product was ready, then he has to present it to his higher management. And once it comes to the higher management, the problem starts.
Okay, more questions?
Fakhriya Zijali from Ministry of Tourism. Now, we all agree on the hesitation, especially for the government sector using open source, Foss. So I'm wondering, and as Mr. Hassan mentioned, it is maybe like a confidence issue. We have confidence because this Foss, it is not used widely, especially by the government sector. So I'm tying this with the G Cloud, which ITA implemented recently. I believe this G Cloud capabilities for now is providing IT infrastructure as service. So I'm wondering for the role of the G Cloud to provide software as a service and platform as service in concern using the open source. Like opening it for suppliers, including the open source suppliers, and provide this as services, like platform as service and the software as service. This, I think, will, maybe it will push the confidence for the government, especially, again, for the management, when the initiative is from a higher authority dealing with technology, they will be convinced more and have more confidence in this. So I wonder if you agree on this approach, like a strategy to start it to convince the government using Foss.
I know that we have a session on G Cloud tomorrow, but maybe Hassan, you can.
To add in her comment, thanks for raising that thing. G Cloud is one of the coming things that we are working on in ITA, and plus to that, there's another project which is the PKI, Public Key Infrastructure. They are both of them are based on the Foss platform.
Okay.
So we're working on that, and whatever she was mentioning is already considered.
But is it part of the mandate of the G Cloud is also to convince higher authorities to be more committed, more involved with the Foss?
That's how we have initiated it, and we thought that this platform should, the G Cloud should work on this platform because at the end it's an ITL-based project and it should integrate with other initiatives that we do.
Because of that, I tie it, because I believe that the G Cloud is based on open source technology completely.
Yes.
So why not to extend its capability into providing more, ITA as Information Technology Authority, I think one of their mission is to convince the management and government to use all the available technology.
How far can you push? How far can you push
They
this
have
agenda?
to push, I think, harder.
When we initiate a project as an ITA, which is totally based on, the Foss technology, this is a kind of a push now.
Okay.
We are just trying to keep, those other sectors which we are targeting, throwing them on the scene. Now, we don't want to use it now. There is something big which is coming on. You have to be involved.
Yeah.
I can just add that the concern about G-Cloud and free software in public administration is exactly the same. So I just want to get my data. Where are they? On the cloud. Okay, they're free software, but may I get it when I want? I want to be sure that if I change cloud, you will delete my data from your cloud. May I be able to export whatever I want? And so the concern is the same. That's our data, citizens' data, and public administration is just adopting it, so it's just using that. So even on the cloud, for instance, the European Commission made some advisor on that, saying that your data must be, being a European public administration, your data should be in Europe. So think about that.
More questions? Yes.
Okay, I'm IT director for hospital information system. I work for the government, and the Microsoft licenses are very, very cheap. We work on education, but we really an issue in many of these. So this is just my comment.
Yeah. Yes. Ahmed?
Saif Lakhbiri from Oman. My question to Hassan, did you ask organization to nominate one or two IT employee and give them intensive courses in open source software, and then let him to provide or deliver project in their organization, instead of ask a student to provide a software or project to the organization?
Well, thanks for your comment. Yeah, we do that. We have another initiative in ITA called the Specialized IT Trend, where we target some specialized IT-related courses, where Foss is part of that. We target the government sector and the private sector and the job seekers as well, in order to achieve the objective that you were referring to. So yeah, it's there, and we are continuing and trying to put more effort on that in order to let us to achieve our main objective.
Yeah.
Yes.
My question again is to Mr. Hassan.
Hassan is very popular.
Seems like well, my question is very simple, in fact. Regarding Summer Code initiative that we have just mentioned, you quoted that as an open source initiative, isn't it? So I expect to find the output of that initiative, like the source codes available for the public, and some plan to create a community around that project so that it will continue and develop. Is that your plan, first of all?
Yes, they're available on request list on the teams that have worked on that, because the open source, Summer of Code, Oman Summer of Code competition, we grouped people, and they worked on those projects. So they became the owners of whatever they have produced. But anyway, they're available, and if you need any contacts, we can share. There is no issue at all. And plus to that, as I said, our second phase is now we are approaching the government sector. So each application that has been being made for any particular body, we are trying to approach them just to see what is stopping them to have it. But anyway, if you need to have their source codes available, we can connect you to those people who have made it, and it's available on request.
I'm afraid that will not create a true open source community that way. It's still closed somehow.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, yes. Yes, but we are encouraging that to be available, and I'm like, at the end, I'm like, we don't want to force the groups, so we are trying to encourage them to, keep it open and available.
Thank you very much.
So when the groups, they do their project and everything, and how do they license it? Under which license?
Well, basically, once they have that application is available, we award them. So, in case if they want to go for further steps and license it and whatever, we keep it for them.
Okay.
They are the ones who are taking it further.
So they make this decision
Our
eventually.
support is there, in case if they are, available somewhere and they need, financial could be an issue, or they approach someone who could be an issue, we are there to support them. But it's their, particularly it's their responsibility to take it further. But our side is that we are approaching the government sector where they have made it for, just to keep it, getting implemented.
Okay. More questions? Yes.
Excuse me. On your right hand, I'm here.
Can't see you. Okay.
Anyway, my name is Foss Al-Makhani. I'm a small startup company. I would like to know about how to make, I don't know, a non-profit company for free open source software where people can refer to the members of this non-profit organization. So for any relevant questions or clarification, they can go directly rather than going to ITA, or sometimes they come to SKU. Though there is, certain group now, but still we don't find the proper advice whenever there is any kind of something we want to understand. Can we create like board members, a non-profit organization where people can get the direct and trust as experts, rather than just by somebody who's, except by his personal efforts?
Yes. So you're asking about maybe creating a Linux user group,
like
or
professional body,
something like this, a professional open source society.
So not society. Society is already, happening. But if we rise the level to make it as a standard corporation, but it shouldn't be as profit.
It's a non-for-profit.
Yeah. Because the community then it still remains that anyone can contribute, and it's not wrong, but we want sometimes to get the solid knowledge by expert, and in that sense, we can't trust the information, and we realize it is from someone who knows the market demand and who knows the solution that is in the late existence and what's going between companies. I think this level has to be little bit higher than what we have now.
And do you think ITA should lead this, or?
It could be anywhere, But I propose Mr. Berderson, to be the best one.
I second your proposal. But I want to know, David and Flavia, from your experience, having a society who works like a consultant body. And the community can ask and get an answer from an authority, some sort of an authority, if whatever they have questions.
From the resource of those experts who knows what is the demand in the market, and which that is the focus, where it is internationally people going for open source. Because sometimes if we, pay our attention to something that is maybe it's very common, then I don't feel that we are very competitive.
Yes.
So we have to go for the higher quality, higher demand, and in that level, we can get the respect of what we do.
Have you come across such a model?
So I think that you do see examples in a business setting, or even in a non-profit, not-for-profit setting, where having a single entity that offers the authoritative support and advice proves to give credibility to the entire community. But speaking from personal experience, I think you can maintain that same credibility without necessarily having to have a central body or entity organized just for that purpose. I think what you find in that case is it becomes more important that you have good information that's spread throughout the entire community, whether that's created by your community members or by a leadership team within the community. The end result is that you have good resources to share that demonstrate the quality of the community and the product that you're offering.
I understand that there is no importance maybe to create something new. Am I right?
The question is it or it's not important to have it?
I would say that it's not necessarily the most important. I would say what's most important is simply to make sure that the information that you have within the community is valid and is
But how
strong.
you know? Here is because if we have a resource where we can go and come, we can be more confident. But if you get an information and somebody is telling you this is the confidential and what's happening in the market demand, and he's saying it's truth, how can I trust that it's...
It always helps to have a third party. It does. Even when you're looking at statistics to prove the size of your community or your growth or the market space, it always helps to have some non-influenced third party that provides you with more statistics and information.
But I mean, this distribution, people will go around. They don't know. Sometimes they go to this society. At the time, they might go to another resource. But if we have our own, we can trust that it's a government and it is by the representative here. So somehow the confidence will be created. Otherwise, there is no sense, or for example, to come to the conference and tell everybody go to the information by your resources, and that's it.
Let's hear from...
I just have an example. Wikipedia, you probably know, and the Britannic Encyclopedia even. They're very well known both. One is made by the community, and the other one is made by money. Somebody put money to do that. They make a comparison between those two encyclopedias on the quality of those.
Quality.
The quality of voices of both encyclopedia. And the average of errors is about 4% in both. Exactly the same. So what does it mean? There are some people very skilled, but few. There are a lot of people not always so skilled, but many eyes can see much more error and product some better solutions to that.
Anyway, the decision remains to you.
But maybe we can continue later on because we are running. Maybe we can have one last question? Yes.
It's on. We would like to hear from your experience. What should the government of Oman do in order to deploy and impose open source? Is there any kind of program, initiatives, applications we should kind of do as a quick win, let's say? We would like to hear from you what would be the best, especially you, because you came from a kind of an association background whereby you're trying to impose certain direction to the economy.
Well, first of all, I think that it's really, really important to involve all the stakeholders. So you put on the table associations, technicians, because the lady was totally right. You cannot avoid them, of course. It's important to have digital skills, users, and public administrations of your territory, and say, what do you need as a government people? So which kind of services do you want to implement? Which solution do you have as a technicians? As a citizens, where are your problem? Which kind of problem do you have, and how you can imagine to solve it? And then in this way, involving all the stakeholders, you can get some more local awareness on the issue of openness, generic openness, so transparency and what we said all this morning. First of all, I'm totally convinced that it's important to make some law. Just saying, at least, before buying software, at least, look at other solutions, not just proprietary software. And policies, yes, and motivate why you choose this software which is proprietary instead of the other one which is not. Why do you use it? Maybe you have a good reason, but you have to motivate it.
David?
So I think in the United States, there have been, even very recently, some policies made that open source should be looked at or even preferred before going with a proprietary solution. Before that, I think what we saw was maybe some fear with mistrust or an unsureness about open source software versus a proprietary supported software from a particular company. So I think, just as was mentioned, it's getting the people together in a room all across the different groups and listening and discussing and educating. It just comes down to sharing information, because what traditionally was the case of the manager was control by power, right? If it's proprietary code, we own that code, we're in control. And instead, what we want to do is we want to shift that away from a control by authority instead. So no longer is it we're in a position of power based on controlling the software, but instead we're in a position of power because we understand and we know and we implement the software. So it becomes a case of listening and resolving fears and educating everyone that's involved to get buy-in from all the different levels. And then it does come down to some policies in place of we need to prefer open source over proprietary.
Thank you, David, Hassan, Flavia. Thank you very much for your active participation. And I think it's time for lunch, yeah? Yes. Okay, let's go.